Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Gillian Barry, and today we have an amazing return guest. We have Paul Nison from the Raw Life Health Show. He is so knowledgeable, and we are going to be talking about the truth about raw cacao. Is it the superfood we've all been told it is, or is it toxic? Let's get right into it. Hey Paul, how's it going?
It's going great. Thank you very much for having me back.
Yeah, I always love having you on. I think you're so awesome. And I feel like you know so much about cacao. We have all been told cacao, especially raw cacao, has so many benefits. It's anti-aging, it's high in magnesium, it's great for our moods, it's great for so many other things. But being a 6-year raw vegan, I'm so sensitive to my body and the things that go in it. And I have noticed time and time again over the last 6 years, every time I have consumed cacao, it has had a negative effect. So I wanted to talk to you today. I know you think that cacao might be toxic yourself as well. So what are your thoughts on this?
So the cacao fruit, I grow fruits and I know all about the fruits. The cacao fruit is very high in antioxidants and it's good tasting fruit. The cacao that's promoted and sold and made into chocolate is the seeds of that fruit. And, in nature, the animal will eat the fruit and spit out the seeds. But here comes American businessmen and take the seeds up and grind it up and say, hey, this tastes good. So let's make it into something that's not that really healthy. So it has something in there called theobromine. And theobromine is like kind of caffeine, but even a lot worse on the body. And there's a lot of negative aspects to this if you overdo it, just like if you overdo caffeine. So people overdo caffeine on a regular basis and they experience a lot of the negative side effects of it, but or direct effects, but it's so common that people don't think they're wrong or bad. And so theobromine is one of the major issues with cacao. And the other thing is it's addicting. So I'm excited about people eating a raw food diet and eating so-called superfoods and things like this. But I just could share my experiences. When I first heard about cacao, I was doing raw food lectures and I knew that I'll say Dave Wolf, who's the one that made this a well-known product and so on, even though chocolate's been around forever, but now it's raw chocolate. So people think if it has the word raw in it, it makes something bad good.
Hmm.
But the major thing that's wrong with chocolate is not just that it's raw or not raw. It's just not a healthy product. And raw, it absolutely tastes terrible, actually, until you mix it with sugar and a whole bunch of other stuff. So
Hmm.
carob, CAROB, is natural where you can grow off trees and it tastes great. It literally tastes like chocolate without having to add sugar into it. So cacao doesn't taste good unless you add sugar to it and or your so-called natural sweeteners that people think are healthy. We should do another talk about that because many times they're not healthy.
Yeah.
Uh, but so people don't like cacao. They like the drug effect they get from the theobromine slash caffeine and also the sugar taste of it.
Hmm.
So these are some of the things. But going back, so I was doing these lectures and people were coming to me and literally, I remember one lady, it was actually in Toronto. She was shaking, an older lady. She was like, I can't stop eating this. I can't stop getting off this because it's so addicting. And her mind was convinced that it was so healthy for her. And a lot of people are emailing me about them not having success on a raw food diet. And I would say, well, we would come down to what are you doing? And then they added cacao, and that's when their problems started. And then people started saying, well, not all cacao's the same, and some cacao's truly not raw, cacao's truly not raw, or so on. And it was an issue. So as the more I researched this, I said, well, who really found out about cacao in its raw state? Because chocolate's been around forever, or for a long time, not forever. But Jeremy Safran, who's a good friend of mine, he lives in Hawaii. He's been a raw foodist for a long time. He's the one that really populated cacao as being this superfood, and it tastes great, and it has so many nutrients and antioxidants. It's wonderful. So he told me, and he told Dave Wolf, and he told Doug Graham, and he told all these people, this is a great product and it makes us feel great. It makes us feel great. Of course it does because of the caffeine, but it's a superfood and so on. So then there were the people that were the naturalists, like Doug Graham and all the people that were the natural hygienists, the people that really kind of understand a lot of things. It just didn't sound right to them. Eat the seeds and spit out the fruit. No, it's the other way around. We should eat
Hmm.
the fruit and spit out the seeds. Now, not all seeds are bad. When I eat watermelon, I love the seeds. Not all seeds are bad, and seeds in general are okay. But when it comes to cacao seeds, they're not healthy. So anyway, Jeremy Saffron was promoting this, and then he changed his stance on it big time because a little kid got sick, really sick, and he found out it was a cacao. So Jeremy Saffron told several of us, well, it's not as good as I thought it was, and I don't recommend it at all. And then there was people like myself and some other people that said, well, that's the case, and that's what we're seeing as well. We're not going to promote her or things like this. Then there are the other people that took it the opposite way. They said, well, I'm going to promote this more than ever before, and I'm going to call it the superfood, and I'm going to say it's Ecuadorian cacao and all this stuff. And then people, all it takes is charisma to make people do anything or take anything. And the next thing you know, it's this so-called superfood, whatever, with great promotion behind it, but still, it's definitely not a superfood. So I would say it's a snack, and if it's used like a snack, you can get away with it. So
in small amounts, maybe, right? Small amounts, or maybe at like a party now and then, but not as part of like not large amounts and not often.
Well, I'm not a fan of the idea of something toxic in moderation because especially if it's addicting. Because I don't recommend coffee in small amounts. It's not going to have the same effect as if you did it in big amounts, but it's just not good. But I want people to understand it's not a superfood. It's a snack or dessert. And if people decide to have it, I would recommend carob instead, with either carob powder or carob. It tastes great naturally, and it's healthy and it's good instead of cacao. But if people feel they need the cacao, go ahead and if you're going to get like if somebody tells you they're on a raw food diet, but they're eating a chocolate bar from the store, it just doesn't sound right to you. Forget about the raw chocolate. Say, oh, I'm in a raw diet. I do all this, but I eat one chocolate bar a week. It kind of like sounds like, okay, you want to be healthy, but why are you eating that chocolate bar? Like, what are you holding on to? Like, what's so special about that chocolate bar?
And it is addictive. I remember I was eating those chocolate bars, and then I started eating them every day. And then I started eating 2 a day. I'm not even kidding. This is how addicted I was. And I was driving around one day and I couldn't find my bar in my purse or in the car. And then I started to get really angry. And that's when I realized, like, hey, this is addictive. There's a problem here.
I have noticed, and I'm not saying this to be comical or to degrade anyone, but I have noticed some of the sweetest women in the world, when they start eating the cacao, they become some of the meanest, craziest women in the world.
It makes me so angry. I was going to ask you what you think the negative side effects are. For me, it definitely makes, like it does, if I eat a large enough amount, give me a huge mood boost, but also extremely like angry. And I sweat more, my ears hurt, I get headaches, and I am so stimulated that I have a super hard time sleeping, and my whole body is thrown off. I get more hungry. And then, so I feel like I notice it causes more aging, not anti-aging, because a lot of people say, oh, it's anti-aging. But for me, I notice I start looking worse because I'm overstimulated. I'm not sleeping. I'm a hot mess on this stuff. Right. And then I see all these people eat it and they're like, it's amazing. I have no side effects. And I don't understand.
It's a lot of it is the stimulation of it makes them feel great, but it's not great for them. It speeds up the heart rate. It creates adrenal fatigue, and it's addicting, and it gives people mood swings. It's just not something that's part of a healthy life, should be part of a healthy lifestyle. However, there's a great margin for error, and people can eat it and still be healthy if they somehow don't get addicted to it, eat it in small amounts. But why not do carob instead, number one, which tastes just as good without all the extra sweetness and everything in it that you have to put with the cacao. And the other thing is, if you want to eat a raw food diet or eat a vegan diet and just have a candy bar in your life, so be it. If that's the worst thing you're doing, so be it. But get rid of the candy bar. Why? Why do you need that? And it's like, there's other healthier snacks you can make, like kale chips, for example. They're not the healthiest. They're dehydrated, but they're certainly not the worst. My kids are eating seaweed now. Like, I never thought seaweed would be a snack, but now it's a snack. And that's really a healthy snack. It's like literally seaweed with some salt on it or some oil on it. It's great, but if you're eating chocolate covered seaweed, now it takes it to a different level.
And what do you think about some of these people that say, well, my grandma lived to be 108 eating chocolate every day? Do you think it's different when it's raw cacao versus if it's cooked? Or do you think they're just because they're eating small amount, like one square a day or something?
Well, those people that lived 108, they were eating cooked cacao, first of all. They weren't eating the
Yeah.
raw. Probably less effective on the body because you're diminishing some of the nutrients and possibly some of the toxicity of it if you're cooking it, believe it or not. Because everything that's in there, the theobromine and the caffeine, you're getting it in a raw state. So it's that much more powerful. So it's probably less harmful in a cooked state than in a
Mhm.
raw state. I haven't done the scientific
Yeah.
work that, but that's the way it would seem to me. As for people that say they live to over 100 years old and they ate chocolate, there are a lot of people doing a lot of things. Like, well, what else did they do? I'm sure your 100-year-old grandmother wasn't going to raves and drinking,
Yeah.
doing other things as well. So that you got to look at all the factors and not just, oh, she ate chocolate and she lived long.
Yeah. And what do you think are the long-term effects of consuming raw cacao like very regularly in larger amounts?
Like I said, some lady came to me shaking and she was really having an issue with it. I think adrenal fatigue or
Hmm.
Epstein-Barr are two things to look at because this can be a problem to consider. Tiredness, moodiness, it's just like not much different than coffee. Coffee
Hmm.
is something I'm a big advocate against. And now there's organic super coffee and healthy coffee and all this stuff. It's such oxymorons. Healthy coffee. Now this,
Hmm.
well, healthy chocolate bar. You
Hmm.
know,
No,
it's
when
the
I eat raw cacao, I never did cocaine. I was never into drugs, but when I eat raw cacao, I've been around people who have done cocaine in the past when they were like growing up and stuff, and they were like, "This is exactly like you're on cocaine," and I think it is. I've never done it, but it's such a high. It's crazy. And then anything that gives you the high like that, you have to deal with the low and the calm down. It's not worth the trade-off.
it's literally a drug. And there's a good friend of mine used to sell raw chocolate and raw carob. Like you would not be able to tell a difference if nobody told you. You wouldn't be able to tell a difference.
No, I have
But
carob and I can vouch for that. I've replaced it with it this year. And as a woman, when it gets towards your time of the month, you crave chocolate. So now I have the carob ice cream instead. I use it in ice cream and it tastes exactly. I gave it to my daughter and they thought it was chocolate. She was like, it
yeah,
tastes exactly like chocolate.
I even make. I have I don't like to make it because it's a lot of coconut oil, but it tastes just like chocolate. Coconut oil and carob, and
Hmm.
it's amazing.
Hmm. Well, some people do say, well, it can be medicinal cacao, right? So I just want to ask you, like, what do they mean when they say that? When would cacao be appropriate in a medicinal sense, in your opinion?
Well, no, it's people. That's like somebody saying coffee could be medicinal. Yeah, if I need to drive cross country and I got to stay up for 3 days straight, it's
Yeah.
and believe it or not, our creator created everything for a reason. And why did he create the coffee bean? If we're not going to use it, so there are medicinal purposes, I guess, to coffee and caffeine, maybe to get your adrenaline up in maybe a particular situation in your life at a one time
Hmm.
kind of deal. But when you take that, just think every herb in nature can be used for healing. But if you abuse it, it becomes a problem. And so if you start taking it, even if it is medicinal, which I don't think it is, now you're abusing it by doing it every day. It's
Hmm.
becoming a
Absolutely. Well, this has been amazing. I always love having you on. I love talking to you. And I'm just wondering if there's anything else you want to end off with, anything else you feel like you need to get out there about cacao on the channel with the viewers and
yeah,
let everybody know where they can find you as well.
sure. Not everyone that sells cacao believes or knows what I'm saying. Some people are hearing this for the first time. Some of you have heard it and you just don't believe it. A lot of people don't like me because I tell people, that about something they should stop doing. But I want to tell people, what my experience with it and why I don't believe it's good. And it's only to help people. I have no motive about it. Trust me. I could add it to my website and sell it. I could make it and I could make a lot of money off it. But my goal of doing this is not to be a businessman. And I'm not saying if you're selling it out there that that's your goal, but I do know there are people that know it's not healthy and they still sell it because their goal is to be a businessman. And so I just want to help people. And if you're doing it, just one great way to know if you're addicted or not is just completely stop it for a month and see if you miss it. And if you miss it, it's not because there's some nutrition in there that you're not getting. It's because you probably are addicted to it. So try that as a test. If you're doing it, completely stop it for a month and see how you feel. Do you have any withdrawal symptoms? and so on. And just like if you gave up coffee, you might have headaches and so on. It doesn't mean the coffee was good for you. Your body's now allowed to detox. So consider those things. And you can find me on my website, rawlifehealthshow.com. And I do have an interview on there with Jeremy Safran. I'm on all social media as well. And that really opens up the can of worms on the cacao, so to say. And really, it was a very provocative interview. So that's there as well. And thank you, Gillian, for having me. And this is an important topic, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it is. And just one last question I just thought of. Do you have any tips for somebody going through the withdrawal? Because I know for me, even if I just have cacao one day, I go through withdrawal for the next few days and I feel super depressed with headaches. Is there anything they can do to sort of like lessen those withdrawal symptoms? Juicing or like anything you recommend?
Well, it's interesting because when you're going through a detox or withdrawal, normally I would say fast and juice, but sometimes that can actually induce the symptoms and make them worse, not
Mm,
better. So if you have a headache and you fast, it might feel even worse, not better. So, you got to be careful with this, and it depends what the exact symptoms are, but usually just drinking water or at least a juice fast, not like a green juice fast for 1 or 2 days will help the symptoms, but at the same time, not detox you completely. So I'd say it's do some green vegetable juices and try to get good sleep and drink a lot of water. That'll help the body. That'll help the body come off the drug.
mhm,
And and just don't be like those people that in the old days they would drink and drink and get drunk and have a hangover. And when they have a hangover, they say, "I'm never doing this again." But then the next day they're back doing it. Don't be
mhm,
that person. Just if
mhm.
you feel that bad, use that as a lesson and then go back to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Well said. To the viewers, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got some value. If you did, give it a big thumbs up right now. Make sure you subscribe if you don't already and go follow Paul. He has an amazing channel. I will link everything down below and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.